All right. Okay, so this call is being recorded and I have the transcription on, so feel free, if people want to take notes, feel free, but I'll have the transcription available as well. So I guess first thing is, thanks everybody for joining the community call. This is our first, so it's pretty exciting to have you all here. This will end up being an external call eventually, so we're going to be setting it up so it can be external. So just want to remind everybody that we won't be talking anything about productization on the Red Hat side, mostly for myself. So I've asked Rob to remind me if I do something like that. But I did want to just kind of, talk about, where we're at, I think, what the scope of the call is and how we might want to work together in the future. And then talk about some high level areas that we're looking for help in, and then maybe do a roundtable as to why people are here. Are they interested in contributing or just finding out more, or if you have a good idea that you'd want to share. So the agenda has some details in it. I'm going to put it in, put it into the chat in a second. Oh, yeah. Okay, perfect. Okay, great. So I'm also going to share my screen and just start. Okay, so we do have some information in here around, again, just mentioning that the scope of this meeting is external. I wanted to kind of first talk about how should we work. We have a couple of proposals, but would like the community to decide the best way to do that. So right now we don't have community calendar. I'm assuming it would be a good idea for us to do that. Any objections or other thoughts around that? Okay. All right, and then the second one is around these meetings. Was kind of thinking it might be a nice idea to have download the recordings to YouTube and then add a community page on our Janus IDP.io repo where people could get links to previous recordings and also get access to the notes. But again, this isn't something that I've previously done in a community, so totally up to here for other ideas or thumbs ups on this kind of thing. Should I take silence as yes? Perfect. I see one.
I'll just give you a vocal thumbs up. That sounds like a great idea.
Perfect. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, and I mean, Rob, I wonder if you want to just talk about the three kind of key areas, because Rob is well, I'll let you introduce yourself, but maybe you can talk about the three key areas that your team has already started working on with some of the work.
Sure. So yeah. I'm Rob Tanawa. I'm the manager for the internal Red Hat dedicated backstage / Janus IDP team. And so three areas specifically, I guess, what we've started looking at so far is from a plugin perspective, we're starting to evaluate some of the plugins that we're taking a look at for Janus. Specifically, we have people looking at the application topology from the Red Hat UI side, OpenShift UI side. We have someone looking at the GitHub issues, as well as someone who's investigating the Kubernetes plugin. So we're doing some evaluations on the plugin space. We have some other folks that are looking at standing up a sample app with all the plugins that we're interested in. So we're hoping to have that stood up soon and hosted on Operate first. And then we also have some exploratory work to see how some of our internal UI and frameworks work within the Backstage upstream project and pulling some of the content in there. So those are some of the main areas of focus that we've kicked off so far. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And I'm just putting the Git repo, if you haven't all seen it, there's a Git repo in the chat as well. So I think I think there's a lot of areas that we're looking for help in, and then I'll also just looking for thoughts on how people want to contribute if anybody's interested. But one is really working in the upstream backstage community. So the backstage community today, as from what my understanding is, there's 4 key maintainers that are from the Spotify backstage side, and we'd love to get continue to get more people to work in that upstream community as well, because that's where the platform really is being developed, and I think we can have some a lot of impact there if we're working in that community as well. So that's a key area. I don't know if you all know, but there is a Discord associated with Backstage that's super. There's a lot of communication there daily, tons of channels around both adoption as well as many different areas. So if you're interested in that, that would be a great place to go as well. We're also looking for plugin suggestions and contributions. And so I think one of the lucky things that we've noticed already so far with our team is that we have started a dedicated team, but we also have just as many or more external contributors in the community today, right? So we've got a lot of people from a lot of different teams within Red Hat that are already using or contributing to the Janus repo, which is terrific. So if you have any suggestions or want to make contributions, that would be great. I have a link up here. We do have a template for creating a new issue for an idea of a plugin. I think it would also probably be a good idea for us to do something very similar like that for our software template. So I was going to reach out to somebody. I don't know who put that one in for the plugins. I'm guessing it might have been Tom, but I don't know. But see if I can get that. We can get that same thing added to the software templates repo as well. And then, of course, we would love to get contributions around writing blogs. We've had Tom and Andrew have been doing a great job on that. And there's actually quite a few in the backlog. But I know that I talked to Ryan yesterday about maybe some other opportunities, people that are interested. So feel free to add your name there if you're interested, and we can connect. And then also around expanding the community site. And I know that Lee, I've already kind of asked Lee to help there with some of the UX design around that site. But right now, if people have seen it, it's pretty bare bones. We have a blog site because we wanted to make sure that we had access for the blogs for people who are starting to contribute. So it's kind of building out some of the pieces here. So if anybody's interested in that, please let me know as well, and we'll keep you in that process. I think one other area might be nice to talk about, and Gorkum and or Sam, I know you guys have been looking at one of the key areas around constraints with the Backstage platform around the need to have to, every time you make any changes in the UI or add a plugin, having to rebuild, etc. And I wonder if one of you could possibly talk a little bit about that, even if it's just for 30 seconds, because I know that there's some people on the call who are also interested in collaborating around that. So I think I saw both Sam and Gorkamon. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm here. We haven't dug into this too much yet, Serena. But yeah, it's a limitation. If you look at the way plugins work in Backstage, it's basically you need to rebuild the whole thing to use plugins. In some Red Hat products like OpenShift, we have more of a dynamic architecture based on Webpack Module Federation, where we can load plugins at runtime. So I think it would be interesting to explore if that is possible in Backstage and what that would take. But it's still very early, so we haven't really done any spikes around that yet.
Okay, if there are people on the call that are interested in that, how might they be able to collaborate on that?
I would definitely be interested. I would totally be interested in that. So if we can connect somehow, and I know nothing about, like, I know very little about those dynamic plugins in OpenShift. So I would like to learn a lot about that, but I think I can help on the Backstage internal side. So maybe we can collaboratively get to some good outcomes of this if you take me on this ride.
Sure. Yeah, Tom, I'd be happy to share with you how it works in OpenShift, and I'd love to leverage your expertise on the Backstage side, and we can discuss how this might work.
I've also been looking
Well,
at
I
it.
was, yeah. So I was actually looking at the new backend plugins that they were doing, they labeled it as experimental, but on Backstage, and those actually are becoming more build time rather than a runtime as well. So I mean, at least at this time, I'm not seeing too much of a way. Well, of course, there's a way, right? We can actually come up with that, and so on and so forth. It's not something that we haven't done before. It's just I'm not seeing too much of a tendency on the upstream community.
So at
for that.
the last SIG adoption call, I think it was a week and a half ago, and they did talk about Taurus from Frontside. It was a consulting company who's super engaged in the Backstage community. Did talk about opening up a small team to kind of start looking at this on the larger community side. And at that point, one of the maintainers did say that they had started thinking about different methods to solve this. So it might be great if we kind of had a small team from this community that's able to work alongside those people in the Backstage community have already started thinking about it.
Yeah, the one thing that would be interesting, I mean, we are talking about this, and then everyone seems to be going around the subject of how we would solve it. But then I haven't seen a definition of what are we trying to solve as well, right? What is the problem that we're solving for this? Perhaps with the problem that we are trying to solve is not actually that I can add a plugin dynamically, and the reason for that, the reason why I'm saying that is because if you look at most of the instructions on the plugins, they literally want you to put a piece of code into one or two or three other files, right? So you're gonna build something at the end of the day, because the instruction is to modify so that your card or your information or your link, in the worst case, is available on the portal, right?
I've been looking at that, and I don't really think it's going to be a problem. What you can do, since it's at least with the UI side, you can, well, in normal React apps, you can typically read an environment variable. One second. You can read either an environment variable, or they also have a config API that they provide. Reading it through the config API is a little bit tricky, but it's definitely possible. I haven't poked around with it long enough to actually get it working, but basically the idea is that you could probably just read a config value and then provide the components into the app as necessary. You could probably do some sort of dependency injection as well with it, but it is all done at source. But I'm guessing that if you have the logic structure to actually check for what you're enabling and then provide it as needed, then it can work. I don't see why you couldn't.
But
I
then
think
you need actual rules to because the plugins are doing contributions to different places, right? Some of them are contributing a card on the main site. Some of them are contributing a menu and so on and so forth, right? It depends on where and who. The problem becomes, oh, now I need to essentially design a API
Yeah,
system for contributing UI components
right.
to Backstage, right?
Right.
It is doable. But I'm just saying that should we be? Is that the problem that we want to tackle, right? That's what is that what we're trying to solve, or is let's get a definition of what we are trying to solve with dynamic plugins and concentrate on that.
I think we definitely need to start with a definition there. We have a lot of asks either in our community or already, or in the upstream community, asking questions about how to do this, and then out of a sudden realization, oh, I need a custom image to do this, which is inherently talking about this particle problem, but we need to kind of narrow it down to what we want to solve. If we want to solve it only for front end, or do we want to talk and influence the architecture of the monolithic Backstage backend behind the scenes and make it more modular, more cloud native, or something along those lines. I think this is a problem of scoping of definition of the issue itself. On the front end, yes, it's fairly easy to do dynamic plugins. It may become tricky once we want to touch different parts on the Backstage backend, influence database models, or I don't know, adding external authentications and whatnot. So I think this deserves quite a lot of attention on our end, and we won't solve it here.
That makes sense. Yeah, we should look at it then, because you're right. It is going to be a lot tricky. I've only been trying to get it to work for the sign-in plugin on the front end, and it just seems like a bit of like checking if you want it and then including it. But yeah, if you're dealing with stuff on the back, that's definitely going to make it trickier.
Well,
Okay, so could we can we have a point person on this topic specifically, and then I can get you guys in touch with the contact at Backstage and the issue that's there. If you guys, maybe you guys can follow up in the community.
Yeah, sure.
So Gorkum, do you want to be that point person?
Yeah.
Okay.
If no one else is volunteering for it, I don't have to be.
Would somebody else like to offer? Gorkum, you pulled a short straw. Perfect.
I tried to backpedal, it didn't work.
Okay, great. So I figured we could just do a roundtable. If anybody wants to introduce themselves, explain either why they're here, if you're interested in contributing, etc. Would love to get people talking.
I can start if nobody's willing to start. Okay, so hello everybody, I'm Tom Sofal. I'm part of the emerging tech in Red Hat now, working on Operate First and Backstage. And we've discovered Backstage quite a while ago, started experimenting with it in Operate First for our service cataloging solution. And that kind of turned into us developing some plugins and looking into how to expand Backstage on our own. And some of these plugins, the OCM plugin in particular, is now part of the Janus IDP. We have some more plugins in our pipeline that Michal can probably talk about afterwards. So that's our current interest in the Janus IDP plugins, but we also I'm also a maintainer of the upstream Helm chart for Backstage. So if anybody wants to contribute to that and would like to co-maintain the upstream chart, I would love to have some help there. So that's my current role here.
Awesome. I'll go next. So my name is Oleg Silkin. I'm also from Emerging Technologies. I work on the platforms team with Ryan Cook and now Thor, Tom, and that's it in this call. Oh, no, sorry, Mikhail as well. So they just recently joined our team this week. And I absolutely love working on full stack projects. I see that Backstage is written in TypeScript and uses a monorepo, which is perfect for me because this is like the main area that I like to work with. I also like Go as well. Just in general, building out like web services and front ends is really fun for me. I don't know why, but it is. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And I just want to get contributing with the code in any way I can. So that's why I'm here.
All right,
Awesome.
since Oleg called me out, Ryan Cook, I am the platform lead. To me, this project seems like the early days of Argo. It looks like it's absolutely life-changing. So I just want to get in here early and just watch it grow and see what it's going to become.
Thanks for joining.
I can go next. My name is Michal Drola. I'm just as Tom on ET. I've been working on some plugins which we need for our service catalog. I've been mainly trying to build some kind of imitation of OpenShift web terminal for Backstage. And I've been also adding some new commits to upstream Rody project for Prometheus plugin right now. And I also would like to create another plugin for Markdown displaying of runbooks for it.
That would be great. I do wonder if there's a way, maybe we could, if you wouldn't mind, with some of the plugins that you are working on or have ideas on, if you could use that submit a proposal link, just so that we know that you're already starting on that. Because actually the web terminal is something I have on our roadmap. So I'm really excited to hear that as well as the other things. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Just let's do an issue so that we can track it.
That's what these are. This is that's a link to the template.
Okay, yeah, I didn't look at the link. I was just saying.
Yep.
Yeah,
Thanks,
definitely. Will do.
Okay, thank you so much. Anybody else?
I can go next.
Yep, go ahead, Andrew.
Andy Blanc, Distinguished Architect. On the services side, I work with our customers who see a lot of interest in the Backstage concept, community, all of the above. I am a maintainer of the Helm project, so I have a lot of interest in Helm as a technology for deploying applications to Kubernetes. And with Tom, was able to help get a canonical Helm chart to deploy Backstage, because previously there was no way to easily deploy Backstage. Now we do. I am an avid writer. I do like writing, so I've been writing like crazy. So you'll probably see a lot of blogs in the Janus ecosystem from me, and you'll probably see a lot more. And looking forward to working with the community here.
Thanks, Annie.
Nice to see you all here. So I'll do a quick intro. I'm Aditya. I'm an SRE manager working at Red Hat. I would say, CNCF landscape connoisseur. I love looking at emerging technologies. Backstage and platform engineering is something that I've been following for a while. So I'm here to see how we can contribute and adopt this project that we are working on.
So,
Cool. And I'm Jeff. Jeff Franklin. I'm an SSA in tech sales for the East. And yeah, I'm here because, yes, I'm also very interested in this emerging technology. I used to be a full stack developer, and something like Backstage would have been really nice back then. But them's the breaks. So yeah, here to hear more about the project, see how I can contribute. Like Oleg, very into full stack, TypeScript, Node.js, web services, things like that. So that's me.
awesome.
Hey, I'm Sam Paget. I'm a UI architect. I work on a number of projects, including OpenShift Console, OCM, Stone Soup, Hybrid Cloud Console, and Console.dot. Also interested in Backstage. I do, as I mentioned earlier, I do have a background working on dynamic plugins in OpenShift console. We're also looking at bringing that to hybrid cloud console. So I'm very interested in how we might be able to adapt that for Backstage as well.
Great, thanks, Sam.
All right, I'll go next. This is Kevin Dubois. I'm in the DevView developer advocate, and yeah, following the project and to see how we can maybe help evangelize and talk about it at some conferences coming up in the near future.
That would be terrific. Thank you. You know, again, I guess I can talk about Red Hat Summit, even though it's because it's still open for customers, but we do have a number of submissions there for a Red Hat Summit. So we're crossing our fingers and hoping that we get some of those accepted. So, and I actually, just for the record, my name is Serena Nichols. I'm the product manager at Red Hat for our IDP offering, and I'm going to stand in as community manager until we have somebody else who's interested in doing so. So anybody who's interested, feel free to let me know, and happy to share any of the duties associated with it, or give them away. So not sure if there's anybody else who hasn't spoken that is interested in.
I talked a lot, but should I introduce myself?
Probably.
Yeah, so I'm the architect for DevTools Engineering. Well, I've worked on many projects, but I'm responsible of all the YAML and the Java experience that you're having fun with on VS Code. I did a few other projects as well. I can't remember, but involved with the dev console and so on and so forth. But yeah, essentially being at Red Hat for 10 years now, officially 10 years in 2 days. So
in 2 days.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
I was told.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So I see there are a couple other people who haven't spoken up yet. I don't want to force you to, but I also, if anybody else wants to, there is one other topic I thought of. Okay. There is one other topic that we are trying to figure out. And I did talk with Francesco about this, who's one of the product managers on Backstage, which is how are we able to track the usage of specific plugins. So what he had told me today is the unofficial way that they're doing it is just looking at forks and stars on repos of individual plugins. So I don't know if anybody would be interested in thinking about that more, and if there's a more automated and more realistic way, a more accurate way for us to find that out. But that is something that we would be really interested in, is finding out for our upstream plugins that we are providing, how can we track the usage of that? So
they're usually done, the way that I've seen plugins done, and I don't know if there's a different way, but it's typically they're downloaded through NPM. So you could probably also look at the download count on that, which is pretty accurate with how many people are using it. Even if it's like someone deploying it if it's just one person deploying it like a bunch of times, it's still telling you that there's like a lot of deployments of it out there.
Yeah, but that means that every build that they're making is gonna be
Every pool.
Yeah. Every
update.
Their CI system, like we have seen this happen before. The CI system basically just keeps on pulling libraries, right? CI doesn't care. So
CI is
so
the
the
best
number
customer.
is, you may actually have one customer with 10,000 pulls. You never know.
Yeah.
Like in our GitHub Actions, we see that as well. The GitHub reports unique repos and the number of instances ran, and you can see that the number is wildly different. The number of repos and the number of times that your action has been executed is wildly different, because CI systems are they're just going to run for if someone sneezes, right?
Yeah, and to that end, if you wanted a more accurate approach, you could probably correlate the number of stars to the number of downloads, because that'll probably tell you a more accurate tale. But it's just like a good indicator of how much it's getting used. I know it's not the most accurate.
Is this an opportunity for the Backstage Upstream project to by itself have a telemetry framework to support anonymized telemetry like you would get in some other projects, right? So if you had a framework where you say, hey, here's my string for my plugin, just give me regular anonymized telemetry on how many people are using it, and then just display it for the entire community to see.
So I think they have a rudimentary telemetry framework for plugins right now. It depends on what we want to we want to track the individual user of the plugin or just the use of the plugin.
Yeah,
because the individual user of the plugin is going to be more problematic in means of privacy and so on and so forth. And I don't even know if we can actually get that data unless we are using
I
a
think,
Red Hat product.
right. I think my primary goal at this point is just to see how many Backstage instances are using each of our plugins, essentially, so a count. I do think that Backstage telemetry system, from what I understand, I thought that was inside. It's capturing what's being done inside of Backstage, right?
Yeah.
Not that it is installed.
So it tracks the user, not the build.
Right. Which is
number.
important as well, but that's not around my requirement, but it's definitely still important.
And also, I don't know if we can actually collect that data, right? Because Backstage is a CNCF project.
Right.
I don't know what their policy is, but when we did this with Che on Eclipse Foundation, they were against us collecting that data. So we couldn't actually collect any data from Che as long as we were hosting the Che instance under Eclipse org.
So maybe thinking about what kind of the things that Oleg had suggested, and maybe I can monthly just start tracking some of these things around stars, and like to have some kind of baseline until we come up with a better solution, because we definitely want to be able to track and see the success metrics. I mean, the great thing is there's a lot of consulting engagements. Again, I'm not supposed to be talking about Red Hat customers, but we do have some insights as to how some of our customers or some companies are using the products and the plugins. But it would be great to see what the actual use, how many people are installing the plugins as well.
So Backstage itself, in the upstream FAQ, directly states we do not collect any telemetry, and you are in charge of your own data, so we won't do that. So I don't expect upstream Backstage to be any help in there. If we want to introduce telemetry into our plugins, we would need to disclose that, since those plugins are not under upstream Backstage. We can do that. Not that we should do that, but it's definitely a possibility to introduce those telemetries directly into those plugins if we want to. When it comes to stars and installations, it's not a very good indicator. And looking at how Backstage is trying to at least get a list of customers in there, or customers adopters in their community repo, I think that may be an interesting starting point to explore all the adopters and see if they have any publicly available backstage configurations, so we can guess what plugins they are using and whatnot. That may be slightly less error prone and demanding more manually mundane type of exploratory work on that front, but that may provide better results than stars or download counts.
Okay. All right, so it sounds like another topic that we should continue with for sure. And Sally, I know somebody offered your name through one of our issues that you might be interested in looking at this as well. So
yeah, and also talking with the observatorium group to see if they have ideas with the Red Hat observability or the upstream. So yeah, I'll introduce myself. I'm also in emerging tech with Oleg and Ryan, and we have just caught this bug. We're super excited about Backstage, and we want to see if where we can take it. I have a feeling I know it has the potential to be like disruptive to how everything is deployed, and I need to slow myself down to just work on a little bit and see where it goes. But super excited to jump in and help out.
awesome. Great. Let's go to the room here. Okay. Anybody else? I know we have some more time, but I also don't want to continue the call if there's no other topics. Go ahead, Tom.
I would like to add to the observatorium and observability type of thing. Does it mean like just displaying observability data in Backstage and visualizing that, or are we still talking about the telemetry side of things?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I haven't looked into it, but I don't have a good idea for how we can track how many people are using it. So yeah, and I don't think Observatorium can help with that. But as far as within Red Hat, maybe seeing how many people are how many people are using the plugins.
Mm-hmm.
We could do that internally.
Yeah. When I heard Observatorium, it kind of reminded me of our work with ACM and their observability framework, which is built on top of Observatorium, which in Operate First instance, we are basically connecting to that multi-observability hub through Prometheus plugin. So that is kind of way how to get Observatorium data into Backstage, but that's definitely a different topic than what you had in mind. So, but just
I think it would matter if Red Hat is planning on doing any kind of managed deployment. Yeah, so it wouldn't make sense in that regard. Yeah, it would have to be like we're running Backstage and how many people are using which plugin. That would be easy to do, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or could we gather that data if it was deployed on the fleet somehow?
Yep.
Like if we could, that would be helpful in a year from now. But
yeah, an extension of working with our customers and how they're using Backstage.
Something that they're deploying distinctly that tells us that they're deploying Backstage.
I think that doesn't help us with what plugins are deployed, because in current architecture, you have basically baked everything into an image, right? So if you collect any generic telemetry of what deployments they have in their fleet, it just tells you they have Backstage. It doesn't tell you they have this particular plugin installed. So
we need to make some marker into that image so that we can collect that. Yes.
Yeah. I keep forgetting it's the mono repo, everything baked into one. I'm just not used to it. And yeah.
We're in legacy architecture world now, in VMs based. If I remember correctly, Serena, right? In the beginning, we were talking about if we should support also VM deployments and whatnot.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
we don't want to go there.
All right. Well, I think that it sounds like we have a good stopping point. I'm not sure how many people are going to be around next week. I'll probably look at the acceptance list because I know that there's quite a few people who are doing some conferences next week. So by that, I'm not going to be here. So we'll kind of take a look, and if there's more than 4 or 5 people, I'll ask for a stand-in to run the call. So otherwise, I'll see y'all in 2 weeks. And thanks so much for joining, everybody, and sharing your ideas. I'm really excited about the number of people who are interested in the project. So
I have one more idea, and tell me if this makes sense. But what if we created images with different plugins in them? Backstage with the plugins. Isn't that how you would deploy it all together? And then we could, It would be convenient for people to use the plugins in that way. You could.
That's very interesting, because I was actually thinking about, can we actually extend the Backstage CLI so that it tailors the image according to the plugin selection that you have done, and that way we could just put labels or annotations into the image. Like, turn Backstage CLI into an image builder that it actually does tailor the image created to include only the plugins and their dependencies and whatnot, and label the image in a way that we can actually extract that information somehow, right? I was actually thinking about that. That would be interesting, and I think that would be helpful
for the community.
Many angles to the community as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Just popped in my mind as well when we were talking, so we can explore that.
Sounds great. Excellent. Well, hope you all have a great day. And the other thing I know is that there's an India holiday today, so I know that we have quite a few people that are not here because of that. So we should see more people at the next calls too. So excited everybody join. So thanks again, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Yeah.